It really all depends on whether people understand that the media that is giving them disinformation is owned by the Federal Reserve and this system of control. And it's really up to humanity to realize that they're being hoodwinked, that when they turn on the news and they get the news from the mainstream media, they're just being fed propaganda.
Everything you guys are seeing broadcast on the Tele-Vision is a psychological warfare effort. The Tele-Vision is still registered by the FCC as an entertainment device. Nothing coming out of it has to be real or even is real. That's why you hear Trump today saying it's all fake news. Everything you guys are seeing is what these guys are broadcasting that they want you to follow. That is their global narrative. Okay, the global narrative is there's a war on terror. You can't have a war on fear. Fear, terror, spookiness. Okay, you can't have a war where there's no known enemy. The folks over there in the Middle East are just trying to simply fight off a foreign invasion and kick us out of their country. These guys are just trying to go in, crush the banks. They got to steal the oil out of there using the Caspian Sea pipelines. That's the overall objective. And that is that's the global narrative. Well, in psychological operations or psychological warfare, tactical command and control of the global narrative is what we strive for. However, this is the global narrative now.
Fake. And actually the things they show you in the movies are real. Because they show you, by using predictive programming, what is to come and what is to happen, just like all these outbreak movies that we've seen year after year after year. These clips here should help wake you up. Now, if you're somebody who is seeing this because someone shared it with you, understand this. All of these people who work for these news networks all read off the same exact script. This is all developed by the same people who control and own the media. This is a basic operation, no different than a military operation. It's a psychological operation on you. They're always, always, always hurting us like cattle. The narrative's always the same. And there's an end game to all of this stuff, keeping us controlled, keeping us misinformed about what's really going on, and keeping us in the dark about the things that go on in this world that you have no idea about, but if you found out, you would uprise. And that's why they keep it quiet. Take a look at all of these news anchors, all of these commercials, all of the same narrative, and how they just continue to use it over and over through repetition, which is the basic form of mind control. That's what you learn in school. There's a reason you go through so many different years of schooling and learn the same exact crap year after year after year. It's because that's how they pound it into your head. So by the time you're 20, this stuff is beaten so hard in you, it's hard to believe that all the stuff you learned is lies. And that's why they call us conspiracy nuts, because they think that, oh, these people are just some wacky, crazy people. No, we actually figured out that this entire thing is a scam. And it's just a basic form of mind control from military operations that they've used, like MK Ultra. They have been testing the human brain for over 100 years now, just like we watch on the History Channel or the Discovery Channel, watching animals and how they act in their natural habitat. That's what they've done with us. And they realize that there's a way to hurt us, to keep us dumbed down, to fluoride us, and to just keep giving us these scripts and these narratives that we all follow and think are real when they're not. It's nothing but a giant script, all to lead to a new world order, a one world order of love, togetherness, and tolerance for all, which is the message of the Antichrist. Take a look for yourself.
You filled up your gas tank lately, then you don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are back on the rise.
But you don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
Who are you really shopping for this holiday season? It's okay, you can admit it, if you've bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
Well, it's okay, you can admit it if you have bought an item or 2 or maybe 10
for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you brought an item or 2 or maybe 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or maybe 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought maybe an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it.
If you've bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10. Say for yourself.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our
greatest
responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about troubling irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 In consumer news, economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
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 And welcome back to the show. I scream, you scream. You know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream. Well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream. You know the rest.
I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream. You know the rest.
I scream, you scream, and you know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, and everybody knows the rest.
I scream, you scream. Well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, and you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
we first opened our doors.
Since 1926.
Since 1978.
For 60 years.
For 75 years.
For over 80 years.
In 90 years.
Over 100 years. Nationwide has been on your side.
Restaurants have always been there for you.
Nissan has been with you through thick and thin.
We will do what we've always done.
Take care of people.
We're people.
People.
People. People.
People.
People. And family.
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 Family. Family.
Family.
Family.
Family.
Family.
Families.
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 Even now.
Especially now.
Especially now.
Right now.
Now more than ever.
More than ever.
Today, more than ever.
Today, more than ever.
In times like this.
At times like these. During these difficult times.
In these troubled times.
Challenging times.
Trying times.
In these times of uncertainty.
During this time of great uncertainty.
During these uncertain times.
During these uncertain times.
In uncertain times.
In uncertain times. Uncertain times.
Unprecedented times.
Unprecedented times.
Unprecedented times.
This unprecedented moment in our history.
It's time of social distancing.
While things have slowed down. As we turn more inside.
While the doors may be closed.
While the distance between us has gotten bigger.
The more we stay apart.
We still find ways to stay close. Even when we're apart.
Even if we can't stand closer than 6 feet.
We can all stay connected to work, school, and most importantly, to each other.
There's still ways to touch each other.
All without leaving the comfort and safety of your home.
Without leaving the safety of your home.
From home.
Home. Your home.
At home. Home.
Home.
Home. Home. Home. Home.
Home. Home. That's the key.
Buick and GMC are here to help. Con Edison is here to help. Here to help.
Our teams are here.
We are here.
We're here.
We're here.
Here for you.
Here for you.
We're here for you.
We're here for you.
We are here for you.
We're here for you.
We are here for you. We'll be here for you.
Runnings is here for you.
We're still here for you.
We're with you. We're part of your community.
So you can trust us.
You can count on us.
And we'll get through this. Together.
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 And together.
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 Mastercard.
The history of the world has always had different groups of people wrestling for control. Sometimes they're visible, sometimes not. For the previous 1,000 years, the church used hell to dominate. Eternal suffering, perpetual torment, burning in a lake of fire forever. Anyone who didn't submit to their authority was killed, beheaded, tortured to death, burned at the stake slowly to resemble the fires of the underworld. Over the last 100 years, the church has lost control. Something took it from them. There's a new organization that's kind of like the church. It's not secretive, it's not in hiding, they're out in the open in plain view. It also started out with good intentions, but has corrupted everyone involved and become a complete inversion of the original mission. The church used hell. The new group also has a weapon.
Breaking news tonight, the coronavirus forcing millions more Americans into virtual lockdown. Over 75 million people in New York, California, Illinois, and Connecticut.
The Centers for Disease Control this past week quadrupled its estimated H1N1 flu virus death toll.
Health and a new warning
to roughly
tonight
39.
about the Zika virus right here in the U.S. The CDC this evening saying it is, quote,
rise
scarier
of SARS,
than we
severe acute respiratory
They are much better at this than anyone has ever been.
Deadly Ebola outbreak, and a new warning tonight from one of the nation's top.
Oh my God. More than 1,000 children sickened by a rare virus that starts
out of control in West Africa.
The church held the keys to eternity, but they've got the world convinced they hold the keys to you and your children's lives right now, every day.
President Obama decided to declare the epidemic a national emergency.
Why are you stocking up? Are you concerned?
In just 2 months, they've been able to cripple our entire planet, something multiple world wars couldn't even do.
American Airlines is using Tulsa International Airport as a parking lot for many of its jets.
Millions unemployed, schools shut down, arrests for going to church, playing in the park, walking in your front yard, neighbor against neighbor. In 2 months, we've never seen anything like this before.
Stalks the human race for quite a long time to come until we can all have a vaccine that will protect us.
Just in the nick of time, they'll have a savior. They'll have the world begging to be saved through a needle.
The vaccine and getting that out to all 7 billion people.
And if you don't want that needle, you'll get a visit from the police. If you want your job, if you want your children, if you want a driver's license, if you want to vote, you think quarantines are bad, the rest is coming. Global ID cards,
virus this fall.
Implanted immunity records,
I want to thank John Brennan,
mandatory vaccinations,
CDC Director Tom Frieden.
countermeasures.
You will always have conspiracy theories.
They're talking about it openly now.
A new normal.
Everyone.
But on how economically risky it is.
Governments have complete faith in them. Religions worship them. The church had nothing compared to this. Nothing.
COVID-19 is a new virus.
How did they get their power? It's all man-made. Polio, AIDS, cancer, Ebola, swine flu, autism, autoimmune, Zika, coronavirus. There's a pattern, and you see it
in a repetitive pattern.
We're staring right at it. We're trapped inside.
It's this long line. I'm thinking a lot of people did it today.
If the fireman turns out to be the arsonist over and over, at some point, you want to know what's in that fire extinguisher. They don't want cures.
They want to get back to doing things.
They want vaccines.
Go and give this vaccine.
Vaccines run on fear. And fear is how they control.
Across the store. Please remember to wash your hands often, stay home if you are sick, and practice good social separation of at least 6 feet when possible. Loitering inside or outside of the store is strictly prohibited.
In order to be able to deal with the spirit, he also illogical. We call it.
More looking back over your life. Yes. You've always been a rather sad person, haven't you?
I suppose you might say that.
Before your divorce, you recall the time that you went to another city with your husband, rather, you black bed and you woke up there.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I didn't think it was fair.
What do you mean, fair?
Well, he knew how I felt about it. We had agreed to live apart, and it seemed untimely that he would ask her to go, knowing that it wasn't me.
I see. Can I speak with Eve Black now?
Surely.
Eve Black?
What?
How do you feel?
I feel all right, except it's hot.
Real hot?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that trip?
What do you mean? Oh. Just one of those things.
Well, why did you go with him? You knew that you all separated, or rather...
I wanted some new clothes.
Well, was it worthwhile to go and get the new clothes?
I got them.
Yeah, I know you got them. But was it exactly fair to Eve was?
I think so. I don't see any harm it did.
You went just for the new clothes?
Sure. That was enough.
Yes, but naturally he would expect more than just that out of it.
Naturally he would.
I see. What do you know about Eve White?
Everything.
What do you think about her?
I think she's dead.
What do you mean?
Alive.
Has she always been that way?
Yeah.
Is she more so now?
Yeah, seems to, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Jane?
Hot.
That place, Mary.
Doesn't want to. She's a little bit afraid that maybe I won't.
It is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't. We're hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off. Show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff. Blow the lid off. Show hosts. It is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't. We're hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off. Show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on.
Welcome back to Info Squad, where information equals freedom. If you would like to be part of the team, click the link in the video description. Celebrities are always doing crazy things, but sometimes it seems to be a lot more than an act. There has been claims that the CIA and Project MKUltra could be influencing these celebrities through various forms of mind control. Is there any evidence to support these claims? Actors and musicians have been speaking out about these types of programs for years. In particular, Roseanne Barr directly mentions MKUltra in an interview with Russian news outlet RT.
Hollywood is the one that keeps all this power structure and all this culture of racism and sexism and classism and genderism and all of it in place. They continually feed it, and they make a lot of money doing it. And they do it at the behest of their masters who run every big culture of mind control too. MKUltra mind control rules in Hollywood. If you don't know, Google that and look into it.
Supporting her statement is the mental state of a compelling number of famous celebrities. Musicians, actors, athletes,
yeah, I was kind of, I was a little down. I found out I was injured and I had to have surgery again, or with another knee.
Politicians,
Person who is under a hypnotic trance.
It is claimed that mind control is being used on a wide range of important and famous people in our society. At first, a few examples just seem like nutty actors, but the more you search, the more you find, and the evidence starts to look a little bit eerie.
Dada, you have one picture, Dada, please. Stop pushing, boys. Dada, for AJ, can I have one picture, please?
Wow. Boys, just back up and get squashed. Get a bit closer. If you look at Anne, it's on his foot. Stay there. Get back, dude. Give her space. Fans, she's not going to do anything for you. You've got to have pictures, everyone.
Bye, Dada.
Well, it's a bit late for that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Ah, weird. Hello. Oh my goodness. Hello. Ew. Strong Brittany. Yeah, it was a weird time. Ew. I'm embarrassed. Can we stop?
You need to remind yourself that you need to focus and try not to let stuff bother you as much as possible. But it is going to bother you because you're human, and I was human. I am human still. But I was just
privacy thing, and I thought that was a fascinating answer.
It's okay. You want to take off the hoodie?
No, I never take off the hoodie.
I know you don't. What's with that? There's a group of women in the audience that wish you would.
No.
Girls?
Whoa.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah, that's okay.
You should take off the hoodie.
Take off the hoodie.
Go ahead.
You want to? Are you hot? Go ahead. Here. You get someone. You all right? What?
Oh,
my
really?
God, the inside of the hoodie, everybody. Take a moment. What is it? Making the
world more open and connected.
Oh my God, it's like a secret cult. Look at that, making the world open and connected, stream graph platform, and this weird symbol in the middle that is probably for the Illuminati. This weird symbol in the middle that is probably for the Illuminati. Oh my God, it's like a secret cult. This weird symbol in the middle that is probably for the Illuminati. Oh my God, it's like a secret.
Only be the musical stylings of Victor Oladipo, who is the reigning two-time champion of the All-Star Weekend.
Leave room for the Holy Ghost. Anyway, there is a lot of memories today, actually. It's a big day in music history.
35 years ago today, Elvis Presley passed away, the king of rock and roll, and as Mark Cohn says in his great song, Walking in Memphis.
I'm sorry.
Wipe the drool.
I was in a trance.
Yeah, wipe the drool there.
Bad news for the Obama administration. We have this new CNN ORC poll, which is quite a turnaround in
Well, a very, very heavy debatation tonight. We had a very Darrison. But let's go to Terrace Chase and look for the head of the pit.
A little shaky. I don't know what's wrong with me. No, but it's good. No, it's good. It's good. You gonna be good. It's a good feeling. Halloween costume contest. We do it every year. It's always a lot of fun. Let's get started. Our first caress.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Leave us a comment down below. Don't forget